Welcome to this week's Hymn of the Week. This week we have My Hope is Built on Nothing Less. It's Evangelical Lutheran Worship number 597. And let's begin with the text. Edward Mote. Well, Edward Mote grew up in London, and according to what we know from his writings today, he actually did not grow up in a Christian family. His parents did not share the Christian faith. And so he was led to someone else as he grew up to Christianity. He eventually became a Baptist minister. So one day he's walking, and let's get the date here, 1834, walking to work. And he thought about he would like to write a hymn on the gracious experience of the Christian. So much like last week's hymn, the refrain came to him first. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. So that's how he started it. And then I believe a little while later, he visited someone that was passing away. Let's get the facts here. He visited his friend whose wife was very ill. And they had no hymnal to sing from. So he pulled his text out that he was working on, right out of his pocket, My Hope is Built on Nothing Less, and began to sing that to her. It became so popular to the people listening that they asked for a copy. And so he went home and he actually finished the text because he was so moved by that. And here's what he said, quoting him as he wrote to the publisher. As these verses so met the dying woman's case, my attention to them was the more arrested, and I had 1,000 printed for distribution. Well, and we're quoting the Lutheran Hymnal Handbook out of that there. So it's interesting that such a text had such a power. How about this? Another fact, in 1836, it was published in Hymns of Praise, and here's what it was titled, The Immutable Basis of a Sinner's Hope. How appropriate for a hymn like this to title The Immutable Basis of a Sinner's Hope. You know how we press mute on the TV and we think, we're just going to shut out the sound. But you can't mute this and you're a Christian, your hope as a sinner. And of course, we are made new as sinners through Christ. But our hope is that Jesus has eliminated has forgiven all of our sin. And so it's gone, basically. And so what a title for the immutable basis of a sinner's hope. I find that extremely exciting. And on the hymn itself, we're going to do something a little different, because it's interesting as we have the tune Melita, and that's not the coffee, no joke intended really there, but it actually is, I believe, a shorter name for the island of Malta, which was where Paul was shipwrecked, and I believe that was Acts 28. So this tune is usually sung to Eternal Father strong to save. However, this time it's set to My Hope is Built on Nothing Less. So here you see the connection of the shipwreck possibly relating to our hope being on Christ. So it's relating to that story potentially from Acts. So lots of connections with the way the Evangelical Lutheran Worship has selected the text and tune. Now in verse 2, I'm going to I'll do a little text painting here. When darkness veils his lovely face, I rest on his unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. So what I'm going to do is just gradually walk up in the bass, defining that presence of Christ's hope and foundation. But who is the anchor here? My anchor holds within the veil. We're anchoring onto Christ. So I'm going to do that there. And what's interesting also, when darkness veils his lovely face, I rest on his unchanging grace. In the darkness, Christ meets us a lot of times. So how relevant that is when you think about that the text was composed for or sung to someone that was moving on from this world to to heaven, we'll say. I'm going to use two great harmonizations. I'm going to vary them a bit throughout. One's by Powell and one's from the great Tertius Noble. So here we go. My hope is built on nothing less. set here, figure out what I'm doing.